This is the 30th of April, and we are looking at a part of the wood where nothing has been done for well over 50 years or 60 years. And you can see that it is totally unfavorable. There are a few spindly trees and the carpet of stinging nettles, and it is a carpet of rubbish. All you can see anywhere is just rubbish, and it is really criminal. People are buying these plots to speculate that one day the government will give them permission to build houses. The fact that the locals cannot buy the houses is not in the government's reference. All they want to know is how many houses are built. And when people are still crying out for housing, because this housing is not for the locals. It is being bought by the rich. Here is an ancient drainage ditch which has been neglected. So trees have grown around it, and as I turn around, all over the place, all you see is neglect, pure neglect. For the few bluebells that are trying to come through, they won't do that well because the leaf canopy is now coming along, and the rubbish must pollute the water. And remember, these are the headwaters of the river belt, which goes into the Medway, and we drink the water of the Medway. It just makes me so sad to see that people are not spending any time in this paradise. It is paradise, but they are just buying it to speculate. The air is very fresh and very green and very lovely, but the eyesores all around are just too much. Here is a majestic Canadian spruce, huge thing, and is surrounded by this unfavorable land where all the trees have been allowed to do what they please. Woodland has to be managed. If you don't manage it, then all you get is a little canopy which is of no use to anybody except a few birds at the top. Even they can't rest very well. So all woodland has to be managed, and this is a good example of what happens when you let the place go to rack and ruin. Here is another view of another Canadian spruce. These were brought to England, I believe, and put in the parks. They are lovely, beautiful things. Again, the same story. There is a path which is not really looked after. It is somebody has used it in winter with a vehicle, and it really is a job to walk. Really is a job. This is the path, and you can see the ruts. In winter, there's a lot of rain. There's no point in bringing a vehicle in here. All it does is damages the path. It's a job to walk, and it also doesn't help to when the summer comes and you want to bring a vehicle in. All you get is these ruts. But people don't think. They just think it's ever so smart, but it is not. This is another instance of bringing in vehicles in winter, and it's just damaged the path, quite horribly damaged. So here is a very rutted path. The bluebells are desperately trying to come through before the leaves come through, because it is an unfavorable piece of land, which means piece of wood really, which means that it has been allowed to do what it pleases. All the spindly trees should be taken out if you really want it to be glorious, but they have just been left. Nobody is loving it. The tree is without love. I can feel that. But still, this is ancient woodland, so it will look after itself. Here is somebody who has dropped a fridge in its pieces, drove down quite a long way, dropped it here where nobody would see it. But the wood can see it. The wood is dreaming, and the wood can see it, and it is not nice. And here is more stuff which you can see, and it's just unbelievable. This is decking which somebody has obviously carried on the back of a truck and just dumped it. The poor wood will take a long time to get rid of this. This wood is our lungs, the lungs of Britain, the lungs of England, and we do not appreciate our lungs. We are clogging it. We should know better than this. Look at COVID. COVID attacks our lungs, and we are attacking our lungs. And that somebody has to get the message across and educate the next generation that we don't do this. We don't clog up our lungs. If we clog our lungs up, sadly, things can go very, very, very wrong. Here is another view of the wood, and the bluebells have come through. There is a lovely scent. Today is the 30th of April. It has been the coldest April for 60 years. This is 2021. The nights are still frosty, so if gardeners are complaining they can't put their plants out, hoping that May will be warmer and maybe a bit wetter. There has been very little rain. The ground is very, very, very dry. You can see that, terribly dry. This is mindless, absolutely mindless. People have come out here, drunk a few cans of something, and instead of taking them home, these can be recycled. They've just left them here. And what sense is there? This place is beautiful. It is the lungs of the county, and people do not respect it. If everybody should know by now that how COVID attacks lungs, and even if a part of the lung is not working, the person has difficulty breathing. If we continue to trash our organic lungs, which is this wood, what do you think is going to happen to our lungs? They're also organic, and they are not going to be happy and healthy. Here you can see the primroses. They are trying to grow in this place the best will that they can do. This beautiful part of Kent, 29th of April 2021, and look at this. You can read what it says, and it's just been dumped. I'm sure that the company should look after its stuff and not allow it to be dumped. If COVID has taught us anything, it is that we must look after our lungs by doing exercise, by building up our immune system. What we must not do is damage our lungs. These are our lungs. These trees are our lungs, and this is lovely place. If anything one learns from this is that these huge companies should take care of where their brand is going. This is where their brand is damaging the countryside. Here is another big, famous, wealthy make. They are obviously not looking after where their name is going. They spend millions on advertising. Well, I wish they would spend a few thousand in clearing up this area that has been damaged. These are the lungs of Kent. Look at what has been done. And this is, I don't know what is underneath the tarpaulin, but they didn't even cover this. So there it is. Very good advertisement for Walls. Very nicely, nice and clear. Look at it. And somebody has even put that there is the top, and this has been left to rot. If anybody has any responsibility for this, it must be the big companies. They should look at where their stuff is going and not just left to rot in a part of Kent which is the lungs of Kent. These are the lungs of Kent, and look what has been done to them by the big companies. Obviously they don't come around and dump this, but they must keep track of where their stuff is going. It is a moral duty. Well, that is the pond surrounded by the primroses, but they are already past their best, and you can see it is mostly leaf. It will now grow and grow the roots, and hopefully there will be seeds which have been fertilized by the insects that live near the pond. There are still some primroses at the other end of the pond and across, because there is a bit shade, but the ones that are in bright sunlight, they are already dying back or turning into seed. They're still looking towards the sun, which is lovely, but they are now into lovely clumps. So hopefully next spring there will be even more of these, because we now have more sunlight around the pond. The pond is doing quite well at the moment. There was a shower just now, and but not enough to actually do anything. It's just wetted the leaves, but there is no water on the ground. It's still bone dry. It has been the driest April for 60 years. Very, very dry. Very dry spring. And these are the stinging nettles. Though we cut them down last week, they have grown enough that I would have trouble accessing the blackberries. This is 30th of April. Tomorrow is the 1st of May. And the stinging nettles have grown like they do, very, very quickly. The brambles aren't going, brambles are basically the blackberries. They're not doing very well at the moment. But by July, there should be nice, luscious blackberries. The sun has come out after a shower of rain. And you can see the bluebells compared to a few days ago. They have really come through. The scent is already in the air. And because this area is in shade, the primroses are still same as last week, but as soon as the sun sort of gets brighter and stronger and time passes, we will have more bluebells and less of the primroses. But at this moment in time, it is just perfect. The grass is growing in the meadow, or hay is growing in the meadow, but not as well as it could do because it hasn't rained. It's the driest April for 60 years. This is 2021. So lots of lovely, lovely things to see and to enjoy. And the color of the leaves is lime green. Quite bushy at the bottom. Another 2-3 weeks and we should have a real display of purple under the trees. Bluebells, lots and lots of bluebells. Here is a lovely view of the path with the bluebells on both sides. The ones nearest the meadow, where there is more light, will obviously come first. And then we have the ones under the trees. And this is an amazing sight, the bluebells. It just, every year I see it, and every year I'm amazed at how fantastically beautiful it is. And as these are our lungs, we need to keep them clean. If these lungs get destroyed, it's like human lungs. Once even a section of it goes, it gets harder and harder for the rest of us to breathe. This is another patch where you can see the bluebells, and then across the path on the other side there are loads bluebells. And seeing the yellow of the primroses with the bluebells is just quite a different sight. You have to see it to actually admire it. And again, I can't reiterate, these are our lungs. We cannot damage our lungs. We have to look after our lungs. This is another vista. And these are just vistas with the lime green of the trees and the purple of the blue of the bluebells, plus the bright yellow. If you wore a dress like that, it would really stand out. I'm not an artist, but I can tell you that this is just amazingly beautiful. And if we feel and think and know and learn and teach the next generation that these are the lungs of all of the people that live in Kent, then we will look after our lungs. But it starts with education. The education must stress that we have to look after our woods and our greenery and make sure that it is there for the next generation. The pond is still okay. It's not lost a lot of water, but it will lose very soon if we don't get rain. Rain is predicted all next week. So hopefully we shall have a lot of rain, and then the pond will fill up. This part of the wood is also doing well with the bluebells. This part is favored by small birds. They like it. If I stop talking, you might hear them. I hope you all heard all the little birds chirping away.